Hey everybody, it's Chainsaw, and today I'm reviewing the brand new album from Five Finger Death Punch entitled The Wrong Side of Heaven and the Righteous Side of Hell, Volume 1. Volume 2 will be released later this year, but I am reviewing Volume 1 today. Yes, I do have my computer here because I do not want to screw up band member names and song titles. So, let's get into this review. So the first thing I do want to mention is that I've been a fan of this band for a couple of years. I discovered them right before their second release, and I fell in love with their first album, and I liked their second album a lot. And I enjoyed that new sound at the time when I discovered them, because at the time when I discovered them years ago, that they were just a different type of band. They were very unique, and they were standing out from bands I was listening to back in the day. And when I heard about they were doing a double album this year, that it just sounded exciting, and the fact that it's not going to be all together at once, so we kind of get this one part and then we'll get the second part later. And after listening to the album twice all the way through, because the first listen through, I felt like I didn't fully grasp what this album was, so I put it on repeat again, and I have to say, I'm torn, I'm confused. On one side, I'm enjoying some things, but on the other side, I'm not. It's kind of hard to explain, but I'll try my best to explain with songs and all that. The first thing that really pulled me to the positive side about this album is the fact that songs like Lift Me Up, which has Rob Halford guest vocaling, the legendary vocalist of Judas Priest, and I thought that he did a fantastic job. And that song starts off this album, and it really pulled me in because I loved that track when they performed it live at Golden God Awards. If you didn't see it, it's a pretty cool performance. And the fact that it was opening this album made me pretty happy, and I just really enjoyed this track. It really pulled me into going, yes, a new Five Finger Death Punch album. And then hearing Watch You Bleed, which is a pretty interesting track. Wrong Side of Heaven, which it sounded so much like the bleeding, but after I got past that thought, like, I really enjoyed that track. It really stood out to me on the rest of this album. It had some really interesting guitar parts, a lot of interesting guitar bits, vocal-wise and drumming-wise. I really enjoyed that track. The song M.I.N.E. or Mine in This Way was another interesting track that really pulled me in, and I really liked that track too. It had some interesting things. And Diary of a Deadman, that track was so interesting because the vocalist, Ivan, I think it's how you pronounce his name, make sure, yes, Ivan, he really just stood out because he wasn't like doing his typical singing or growling vocals. He was soft-spoken, and that track just stood out musically as well, but just the mixture of a lot of musical structure in that track and his different style of vocals for that particular track really made that track stand out along all this other stuff on this album. Now, here's the negative side that I feel like I have to address, because I can't just lie and say, it's a great album. I have to say these things because it has to do that. So, the thing is that the song Burn MF, which stands for Burn Motherfucker, the problem I have with that song is not so much the musical stuff in it, but the problem I have is the fact that there's so much cursing in it. And that's the big picture about this whole album. I understand Five Finger Death Punch are known for their lyrics to have a lot of cursing and to have a lot of the F word, the S word, and whatever else in between. But the fact is that this album contains so much cursing that it's gotten to the point where once you say a word in one particular song so many times in a row, it loses its effect, in my personal opinion. Like with that track, Burn MF, I think that song was personally written just so that the vocalist Ivan could say, burn motherfucker, burn motherfucker, burn motherfucker, and keep saying it over and over and over. And throughout this whole entire album, you're going to hear a lot of cursing, more than I think that's usual from this band. It feels like they're just trying so hard to push the effect of using these cuss words and trying to be hardcore. I'm not saying they're trying to act like it, but it seems like they're trying to do that. And I think that was a very negative thing. And the fact is, here's another two things that really bothered me about this album, on top of when I talk about the sound of the band, and we'll get to more of the positives and negatives. But with the tracks, the first thing I want to talk about is Mama Said Knock You Out. They covered a rap song from LL Cool J. Another negative thing, just hit me the wrong way, and even when I listened to it the second time, no. And the fact is, they got a guy named Tech9, some rapper. I've never heard of this guy, and trust me, I've heard a lot about different types of musicians, but they got some random rapper to be on this metal cover of a rap song. And hearing this track and seeing it on the track listing before I heard it, I was going, maybe they could pull off. Who knows? Maybe they'll do some interesting things, but it just sounds like they're trying to be that thing again, going back to the lyrics about the hardcore thing. They're trying to be hardcore. I'm not saying that, oh, they're trying to be hardcore, we should hate them, but just that alone, covering a rap song, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And I don't enjoy the track. If I personally wanted to hear Mama Said Knock You Out, I'd rather listen to the rap version. No, I just can't, I can't believe they did that. And the final thing I do want to talk about that I'm really having problems with is the track 6, I.M.Sin, track number 7, Anywhere But Here, track number 8, Dot Your Eyes. And you're going, okay, well, what's wrong with those songs in your personal opinion? In my personal opinion, what's wrong with them? The problem is not particularly the songs, the fact that they're put on the album twice. Yes. I.M.Sin, track number 6, is also track number 12. Track number 7, Anywhere But Here, is also track number 13. Track number 8, Dot Your Eyes, is also track number 14. And the fact you're going, well, they added it twice? The only reason why they did that is because the tracks are different. They put something different to make the song a little bit different, so they have an excuse to throw it on twice. I.M.Sin is by itself on track 6 with nobody else included. I.M.Sin on track number 12, the second putting on the second time, features the guy named Max Cavalera. I'm probably saying that name wrong. And so, that's just a guest vocal. Why did it have to have another spot on the album? Track number 7, Anywhere But Here, features Maria Brink of In This Moment. And then track number 13, when it's put on the second time, has a duet with Maria Brink. It's like, she has more vocal parts. That doesn't mean put it on the album again. Track number 8 is Dot Your Eyes by itself. And then when they put it on the album again on track number 14, the closer of the album, it features Jamey, Jasta. I'm probably saying that wrong too, but I don't understand why they did that. If they would have took the 3 alternate second versions from track number 12, 13, to 14, that are just repeats basically, with just added stuff, off, this would be 11 a track album. And this album went in with Diary of a Deadman, which would have been a great closer. But no, that's not what happened here. And I have a problem with that. If you're going to release these secondary alternate versions of these tracks that are already on in the middle of the album, then put them on a B-side. Put them on a EP. Do something. Release them to the public online. I think putting them on this album is not good, because you're giving us 3 more tracks, basically the same music, with just a little bit extra stuff. With somebody else, a duet. With someone who's already on it, they just give them more lines. Or, oh, we have someone else to come on a feature. Somebody else come on a feature. That doesn't mean put it on the album at the end of the album. No. I just thought that was very bad. Let's go to the sound of the band and talk about all that. So Ivan on vocals, like I said, I was talking about his lyrical content. I think it was too much cursing, but I will have to admit that I did enjoy most of his lyrical content on this album, but not so much on the cursing side. There were some interesting things that he did talk about, and I liked the way that he writes his lyrical content, but I just had a problem with the cursing so much. But everything else that doesn't involve cursing, I felt like there were some things that were really interesting to listen to, and I just enjoy his lyrical content. His vocals are what you'd expect. The growls are aggressive. The singing is very good on the choruses, and overall, just a great performance. And I did especially have to give him props on Diary of a Deadman, that he had that soft-spoken thing and really changed that song and made it even more special and different than the rest of the album. Zoltan and Jason, I'm hoping saying Zoltan's name right, on guitars. The guitars are what you'd expect from Five Finger Death Punch. They have that heaviness, they have that raw sound, and they're in your face. Some of the riffs are very powerful, some of the riffs are crazy. The solo work is insane. I love the solos from Five Finger Death Punch. They've always been unique and standing out. But there were some riffs on this album that I felt were just so simplistic, and they just didn't spend a lot of time on some of the stuff on this album. But it's weird because it's like contradicting the thing I talked about earlier about there's that bad stuff and the good stuff. The bad stuff is the fact that there's some riffs that are just thrown into the mix. They're thrown in, not really thought a lot about it. But there's other riffs that really stood out, like Diary of a Deadman and the song Lift Me Up. Which, well, that's kind of simplistic. Well, for that type of song, it stood out and it really pushed that song to give it an extra punch. But it's that conflicting side. But overall, I like the sound and I like the playing on most of this album. There's just some, not so much. Let's go to Jamey on drums. And I felt like the drums are what I've expected from Five Finger Death Punch before. They're heavy and they're fit right along with the guitars and bass, which we'll get to in the moment about the bass. And the drums are just right there and just hitting along and going with it. I didn't really necessarily have a problem with the drums. It's just that maybe there could have been some more here or there, but overall, just thinking about the big picture, about the negatives and the positives, that I don't necessarily have a huge gripe about the drums. I felt like the drums were pretty good on this album. Some simplistic, some pretty getting some technical in there and stuff like that, but I really didn't have an issue with the drums. The bass with Chris, I felt like the bass could have been turned up maybe a little bit more so the Chris could stand out a little more to play along with these guitars, but overall, when you think about it, the guitars and the vocals are mainly the things that you're focusing on Five Finger Death Punch. At least that's what I focus on, but it is what it is. So overall, looking at the negatives, looking at the positives, I feel like this is a decent release from Five Finger Death Punch. I'm hoping that Volume 2, that's coming out later this year, will have more stuff that will keep me interested in listening to all the way through. I hope that there's not 3 songs on the album that are put on repeat again at the end of the album like on this one. But I will have to say that I did enjoy some of the tracks on this album. I did enjoy some of the things that were going on this album, but the other side, not so much. So if I had to give a rating for this album, I'd give it a 7, maybe 7.25 out of 10. That's a C if you want to count it in grade school thing. But I have to give it that. I mean, it's just that negatives really weighed it down a lot. But I think a 7 is a good thing. I think fans of Five Finger Death Punch will enjoy this album. But for me, I would rather listen to the past stuff because there was just more stuff that really caught my attention. On this album, there was just some stuff that didn't catch me. Probably not in the right way. Maybe I'll go back to it later and I'll probably enjoy it more. Who knows? But for now, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. I think that's fair for this album. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the review, like the video. And if you like me and you want to see more, subscribe or click my channel to see more. Thank you guys for watching. See ya.